Hello! Welcome! Welcome to Independence Hall in Philadelphia. Please take a moment. Take a look around. My name is Alexander Hamilton and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, especially about money, since today is Money Mondays. So, sometime... Sometimes when I'm not doing anything, because you're streaming, you can also just look at the other people and kind of like pan around the room just to show something to those who are watching the stream.
Okay. What you said, it went online.
Okay. We're actually still set up for our debate for independence. It's become a little bit of a pet project of mine. I spent so much time in here during the Constitutional Convention that I really appreciate the history that was made, but a decade a little more prior. Did you know that when we actually met here, which took a tremendous effort on my part to get everyone together to debate the Constitution and to augment it, originally we were only chartered to make minor corrections. So was the legal designation for each of the colonies and delegates, or a vast majority of them. So when they arrived here in this room, after we won our independence and after we had a couple of years to really turn upon ourselves as we're vying for the dominance of each other's systems, we basically committed an illegal act in deciding to abolish the Articles of Confederation, the form of government to which this governing body here sat under since '75. But we're all a bunch of lawyers, really, so it didn't take too much of us to find a way that we can legally get around such a thing. But it was quite an emotional object to a great many of our constituents, especially down in the South, and also, consequently, of the smaller states, like Rhode Island, where you're nearby right now. Myself, the New York table is right there, and I was actually outnumbered 2-1 by delegates from the Clintonian camp up in New York. That had the unfortunate consequence of... Oh, no, please, I can talk forever. I often feel like I do, especially when there's no one here sometimes. Correct. Correct. You're part of Virginia right now. Virginia went all the way to the Mississippi River and then up to the Great Lakes, kind of going behind Pennsylvania.
Cannot hear his voice.
Thank you. Thank you. You have to come back for one of our events. And we've actually designed this, so hopefully school children from around the country can come and learn about the foundational moments of our country. Let me ask you, do you have a question or a particular area of interest, something that you've always wanted to know about? You might be interested in something which is uh, really so plain, but if I can get out around here, our Constitution, which I undoubtedly you're familiar with. The original would be down in Washington, D.C. now, in the National Archives. Though I believe there was a copy for sale this week, I believe. Sotheby's is putting that on. It is well above what I'm charging for my lawyerly services, so yes, it's but when you're a part of signing the original, really, I don't need my own copy. But what I wanted to point out to you was the importance of when we created the Constitution versus the old Articles of Confederation. We celebrate our date, of course, being for the birth of America, July 4th. But it enshrined in our Constitution was declaring that July 4th was really the creation of a new epoch in world history. It became a legal way to cite the date of documents by signing it in going from 76 being year 0. So, for example, right here, it says day of September in the year of our Lord, 1787, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 12th. Because, of course, it happened 12 years later. And this is a way a great many of our official documents can still be read, dating back to 76. First time really where humanity is casting off the ill-conceived notion that a monarchy's blood, or that they are holier than us, or direct descendant from God, to which some of them claim. The absurdity of it all, as we have finally started to understand nature and the consequences of our actions in nature. Thank you to the sage Benjamin Franklin, sitting right over there in Pennsylvania. A man who basically witnessed so much of our history, being himself taught by Cotton Mather from the Salem witch trials as a boy. Benjamin Franklin goes on to invent the electrical lightning rod, to which you put on top of your house, because now we understand about conductivity and electrical potential. Prior to this, if your house was hit by lightning, well, what did you do wrong for God to smite you such? So we have now gotten out of the Dark Ages, and this liberation from monarchy and from hereditary rule was born in this room. And it's the first time that this has been done in Western civilization since the Vikings did it in Pingviller in 1000, and before them, to which we direct ourselves so closely connected to, ancient Rome. And we had a great sense that our actions were as equal to the creation of the great Roman Empire. We all had a sense of this. And so when we are debating what we want for not only ourselves, but our constituents, our states, really, which is our country, we're also realizing that the posterity will forever remember us and our actions. But if I can go on and on. But if anyone has any questions, my name is Alexander Hamilton. I was just pointing out a wee bit about the Constitution, but today is Money Mondays, and so as the first Secretary of the Treasury, I am very happy to give you any insight into world currencies and the dominance of the dollar.
I do have a question. Where did you make your money, sir?
Well, I actually did not end up making a lot of my money. I married well, I must say. Yes. No, I of course received a small military pension, but really my services as a lawyer are what sustained my family. But we never went on to have any grand plantation or land acquisition. No great acquiring of wealth by my side. I believe that the true inheritance of wealth, that which be generated and grown the most, was the United States of America. So I continued throughout my life to ensure that the country itself grew before myself and my family have grown. And I charged a lot less in fees than Mr. Burr, who worked just down the street from me, I must say.
Big tips in, if you were to foresee in the 21st century, that financially?
Well, I don't know about your time scale, because when I think about the century, of course, my time scale is over centuries. But I can give you some keen insight into where things are going. Of course, there's a bifurcation between economic systems of the planet right now, between the Chinese system and the Western system. Literally, the financial systems are being further bifurcated, and the systems that the countries use themselves to facilitate trade in their currency will be dependent upon one or the other, and both will kind of fight for their own dominance in every country, just the way that right now you would have two main competitors fighting for your dollars to be a consumer. This is how the world will go. You can see this through the different projects that China has gone throughout the world, and the negotiated terms that they give through the establishing their ports around the world. And of course, how the Chinese has not accepted, and they were early people to ban Bitcoin. They were quite smart. Of course, Bitcoin being its own subject that I can talk insightfully about, but nonetheless, as the Secretary of the Treasury, I decided upon how the strength of the dollar should be created and sustained, and its evolution as a form of currency. That stopped for 200 years, and right again, your chairman of the Federal Reserve is creating their own CBDC, or central bank digital currency. So every American citizen will have a digital bank account through this central bank digital currency. It'll be facilitated through your own bank, so you don't have to do anything or have anything special. Nothing will be required on your part, but this will be the official way that the government will pay you money. And that infrastructure, once that is set up and maintained by the government, now you basically have a competition to whether or not you're going to have a system based on Bitcoin, which is currently paying 3.5 Bitcoin per 10-minute block. And I don't know what that's going for, but maybe around $40,000 or $50,000 is paid for each 10 minutes. But I guarantee you there is not even a tenth of that being collected for the people who are paying to have themselves recorded on that 10-minute page. So the idea of giving away free money in the form of a Bitcoin for its creation and sustaining basically is in itself completely based upon faith that these systems will continue, and that faith has caused a bubble. I know I caused the very first bubble in the United States of America because I made the America dream too faithful and too many people believed in it. And I had to collapse that bubble, and that is exactly what is going on now with Bitcoin. So, but when they have to compete with a central bank digital currency, there is no competition whatsoever. So basically, you will understand later on how all different systems that we have in a country, be it a financial or insurance system or shipping system, they will have their own ledgers. This is how I started in life down in St. Croix with working with ledgers. They will have their own ledgers, and each ledger will have its own cryptocurrency, and the value of that will be just like a corporation. Yes, sir.
Do you think that you're going to have some issues with a lot of people not wanting to look at this digital currency? I know back in the 80s, everybody, Ron Reagan make the money different colors. And use the expression, I'll help real soon. I mean, are you, I guess what I'm saying, especially areas that I come from, people don't want that digital. I'm so sorry. God bless you.
You're right, and we are based on the belief and faith of Americans. And if Americans are not going to adopt an idea wholeheartedly in their heart, it will not be adopted. You can force an idea upon them, but if it's not taken to heart, it will not be accepted. But just like things that just take an evolution of thought, of acceptance, of conciliation, of recognition, the process of one's understanding what's going on is what is leading to you receiving more things electronically versus in the U.S. postal mail right now. It's a system that will basically phase in and out. Basically, the only time that you will receive this money is when the federal government sends you your tax return refund and it goes to your bank through this CBDC. And you would basically receive it as dollars, and you will take it out of your bank as dollars, and you will never use it in any other way, though anyone else would be free to use it, because since the systems are built by the United States government, it basically has to be secure. And if you build a financially secure system, which is also paid for by public dollars, it works at a benefit and it will be basically used by people. But you don't have to. It's just the difference of basically them sending you money by a check, and then how that money actually gets to you, versus them direct depositing it to your account. It's just a different way of them sending you money. And if you prefer to send it that way back, then it works. But if you prefer to send a check, they will still accept those for, well, until they don't. Until checks are something of the old. Welcome, sir. My name is Alexander Hamilton. This is Independence Hall from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we're talking about money today, though we could talk about anything. It's funny, our last friend left. I hope he was not too upset that he eventually has to adapt to these newer ideas, but then again, maybe he doesn't, but his children have to. If you have any question, I'm very happy to answer. Yes.
I have small questions.
Yes, do tell.
Cannot hear them.
My entire way of life is based on my military pension, VA benefits, and hopefully in 10 years, Social Security. I'm extremely concerned for our future, the government, our country. I guess we can't look at the future.
Well, one really never knows how dire your darkest days will be until you first set upon a tunnel. And so the problems that you are dealing with now are
The tunnel was very bright. Extremely bright.
Things really are not that bad right now. For example, I believe you are experiencing a problem with truth in media, which did not exist 20 years ago. But the same is true in my time. When in the 1760s, truth in media was understandable. I wrote a great many articles. One of my articles got me published and saw and brought to New York. But by the 1780s and 1790s, to quote Thomas Jefferson, quite simply, if it's in the newspaper, it is a lie. We all owned or were in the payment of professional reporters, and they would report what we told them to report. The cases of Calendar bringing about basically changes in our government are tremendous. What the press did to create angst and problems in our government, it was because of the press and the lyings that the Adams administration created the alien and sedition laws. Some of the worst laws possible, where we made it a crime to talk about the federal government in a disparaging way. Something which Indonesia actually just did last week as well to create that same law. We look upon this as some of the darkest, most oppressive days in our short life as a country. And these days were brought about because of the media and the lies. I know. I eventually bought and created a newspaper in New York. So it's the New York Evening Post. They've dropped the evening because they don't print it now, but it's the New York Post still in existence. I just wanted to actually own the whole operation at that point. But so you don't worry, because the country got over it. If anything, people desired to understand more because they were tired of being lied to. And the consensus of truth became a little bit bigger, but not in a holistic or romanceful type of way, because there were still pockets of reality that went off to create different fundamentalisms of thought in a great myriad of ways, beyond those that were recognized in universities. But nonetheless, it is just part of the cycles. I would not worry too much about that. But as for your pensions, I would basically guarantee that, considering the United States dollar is still the world's preeminent currency for international trade and the best store of value par none in the form of our government bonds, that having the federal government owe you money is just, well, in my days, slightly less important than the most important of paying back international creditors, but domestic creditors are a very close second to those to which our truth is our bond. And as long as the legislature goes through the mechanisms of actually facilitating that payment, something which they have scarily balked on a couple of times to do in a timely manner, as long as that continues, which I believe is up in a couple of days as well, then I would rest assured and rest at night to enjoy a happy old age with the government paying you some money. And I'm glad they're keeping up for inflation, though they could do a way better job than that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Certainly. He's hanging out, I guess. Hello, and welcome. My name is Alexander Hamilton, and this is Independence Hall in Philadelphia. Please walk around, enjoy. If you have any questions for me at all, I'm very happy to answer. Today is Money Mondays, and so I'm happy to talk about money especially, but anything at all, and even let the different broadsides inspire you to your inquisitiveness.
Honestly, I'm not that concerned. I got way too much money. It's too unfair for the rest of the people in the country. Sometimes I feel bad, but then I'm trying
as long as your wealth and money is making, especially those you care about the most, feel better in life, and as it trickles down to those associated with you, and then sometimes only associated by, community. But as it trickles on down from those that have achieved a special place in life, that is really how a society becomes a good society. If you want to live in a good world, it is achieved by doing good things. And so, for example, my wife created an orphanage in New York City. And the children that she helped, just by this small action of getting involved in helping its creation, it just begot such a sense of comfort and love to countless scores of children. So, if you want to live in a good world, it's achieved by doing good things. Yes, as I mentioned before, I married well. Actually, it's kind of interesting. I took after the general, George Washington. He also married well. I was in his service when, and he actually sent me as a courier to go to the Schuyler's to deliver a message. And I'm not too sure that he actually knew what he was doing in sending me to that house. Because he recanted through many a long nights at war his early days and the different women that he pursued, and eventually how he found Martha, who was herself a wealthy widower, who basically brought in the great fortune of the general. About 2/3 came from Martha. So he married well as well, and he always he told me about his great love and regret for not having children, but love the children that she had, and grandchildren that were then lived with him at the estate during the short time that he spent there. Wonderful.
And now there's a little boy out there named Orion.
Ah, strong name. Congratulations.
No, congratulations for that. I'm just an uncle.
Yeah, and
Like I said,
are they married?
sorry,
Are they married, your soul sisters?
yes,
Ah,
they're married.
how lucky and fortunate for them.
They, I think they're going to have to leave Texas because they're showing friends here, unfortunately. But, sure we can find a safe harbor somewhere for them.
As I mentioned before, the evolution of human thought doesn't often happen as quickly as we want throughout the community. The bigotry that I had being born a bastard was so prevalent in my life, and I would hope that after hundreds of years, the concept of bigotry should be, yes, my parents were not allowed to be officially married, and so I was kept out of polite society. Say again, you were?
Yeah, I'm a bastard.
Ah, there you
I'm all happy in college, and my father left her, so here I am. And it's funny, in the early 1970s,
Interesting.
And yeah, it was during the revolutionary time. I was very fascinated with it because I knew I was born without a father. I mean, not legitimately married. And every time I heard someone talk about bastard, didn't seem a bit derogatory. Felt it was kind of a badge of honor for me.
Interesting. How so? Or was there an event that caused you to take it as such, or was that how did that come about? What are your reasonings?
Well, being raised by my mom and my grandma, I felt became stronger for that. And I didn't need to have a father to identify that in my life. And that was my badge of honor, I guess. I don't know. He's a bastard. Never met him. Still alive. I think he's 72 now. He is 72.
Nice. Well, you had the eternal strength to go on and consider this as within your natural abilities. Yes, I can see a badge of honor, how you can wear that well.
I mean, I have to. I didn't need a father. Gave me strength. Not having a father. Yes. More strength. I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure sure other people would feel about not having a father, but I don't know.
You never know how things will play out. Of course, my parents, they were not allowed to legally be married, but still, my father did go leave the family, leave us to go find his fortune. And though he was estranged to us when I was about 7, when I was about 14 or 15, the letter that I wrote about a hurricane in St. Croix that just had happened, I actually sent it to him. I was still in communication with him, though I've not seen him in years. He was still down in some of the different Leeward Islands. And so, but that letter was intercepted by Reverend, was it Cook at the time? And I'm sorry, the name eludes me actually. But nonetheless, that letter was printed in the newspaper, and that's where people saw my gift of the quill. And it was because of that letter to my father that it was taken upon as a project of the community to raise funds and to send me to the New World so my life would not be forgotten down there. And though my relationship with my father essentially ended at that moment because I never went back to the Caribbean and we weren't in too much of communication, it really did set the stage for the greatness to which I exhaled myself. You never know how it's going to work out.
Yeah, nice. I appreciate that.
Certainly. Well, my friend, that is all for today. You are most welcome back. I enjoy someone with a love of history. So please, every Sunday and Monday we're here, as well as over in Horizon in a wee bit.
In the metaverse?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I will look at you there. I started going for the past week, actually, after 4 years in
Yeah. Once I started coding myself into existence, the possibilities really are quite endless.
Nice.
Have a great day.
Hopefully I will see that.
Thank you. I look forward to it.